Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is your girl Mo, and we are at it again today. Today I wanted to create a video and to share 7 tips for managing your finances during COVID-19. And so thank you for tuning in. And so if you do like it, please don't forget to hit a thumbs up and click the subscription button if you have not subscribed, if you're new to the channel, and of course hit the notification bell to be notified for more information. And another thing, let's bear in mind that this does not really constitute, or it's not limited, the information that I'll be providing to that of a registered FSP. So if you want to know more, please do consult with your registered financial service provider. And then step number 4 is that adjust your budget. Adjust your budget. And I've noted down that arguably the most important step in creating a budget is the regular assessment and adaptation that happens when significant financial changes occur. There is no doubt that significant financial changes are happening globally right now. It's not a matter of, oh, it's affecting only a certain continent, or it's affecting a certain, or it's affecting only like a certain nations, excluding certain or excluding others, but it's affecting the whole globe. Assess how you're affected and redistribute your budget allocation. And in this context, obviously it leads us to saving. It's very important to, obviously, I think it was on the third tip, yes, on the third tip that I gave, I made an example that, okay, if maybe you are having like 5 things in which you had to allocate, maybe let me say you're having like your bond, you're having like your transportation or your fuel if you have a car, or you're having, your study fees, or you're having, so and so on, like maybe 5 things, or maybe you're renting instead of a bond, or, you have your budget, those little things, those little items to show where your money goes per month. So that is why if you have not started or you don't have a budget, please do create one. So and I made an example saying that, okay, in this case, maybe you might have to cut or to reassess, to look at which ones are the most important ones, and then cut off maybe specifically, 2, or maybe even if you don't cut them off, reduce what you are paying, to these. Maybe if you are paying, if maybe you are paying like 5,000, or you're paying maybe for your bond or for your rent, you can renegotiate, or you can maybe go for something that is a little bit lesser than, cheaper than what you are paying for, or where you are renting and stuff like that. Cut off the costs. And another thing, it's very important to actually contribute more to your savings. If there's one lesson to learn from the global pandemic, is that the unexpected can happen at any time. So we should be prepared for it as much as we can. So that is why it's very important that we contribute more to saving. We're not saying that, okay, you should hoard, canned goods in your pantry or whatsoever, but you should have a plan for when the unexpected happens. And that is where now contributing more to savings comes in, because we don't know what will happen next. So it's very important, and it's very wise, it's a wise thing to actually have some savings, the little that you can, put aside. It doesn't really have to be a huge amount of money that you put aside, but, the little that you can be able to put aside, it's very important that you contribute it and put it aside. And then step number 5 is assess your banking relationships. Assess your banking relationships. And so I've noted that if you have limited income right now, try to reduce unnecessary fees charged to your account. Because we know that there are bank charges, right? There are certain fees in which, are charged to our accounts, for the fact that you opened up that account. There are, it comes up, it comes with bank charges. It's not only opening up an account and then boom, okay, those little R1 that we got charged off when we maybe, I don't know, when we withdraw or stuff like that. So such type of thing. So many accounts charge fees for not maintaining a minimum required balance and are not meeting a monthly minimum direct deposit. So if you plan to switch banks as well, consider a high yield online savings account to maximize your internet earnings. So that is number 5. So now let's go to number 6. So now step number 6, or tip number 6, examine your relationship with debt. So at this very moment, you might experience more leniency related to debt than you typically would. Weigh the trade-offs. It's very important to weigh the trade-offs of continuing to pay down a debt versus saving money while you can. So you need to weigh the two options. And also here are some things to take into consideration. For instance, for students, there's this thing that been suggested, or is it been, okay, should I say it has been implemented, that through September the 30th, 2020, this year, federal student loan payments have been suspended and interest rates are at 0%. So you are not required to make a payment during this time, but you can make voluntary payments, and it's actually an advantage because, for example, you might be, maybe let me say your normal student loan rate would have been, I don't know, like 5% or around somewhere there, or 10% or 7%. But at this moment, and obviously if you pay with regards, or in terms of that certain percentage or rate, you will end up paying, or at the end you would have paid more than you could have, more than you actually borrowed, if you get my point. So at this moment, it is at 0% rate. So meaning that here there are no extra charges. You will actually be paying less than you could have paid, if they had not suspended the rate, so meaning that if, for instance, you were to actually pay an overall amount of like 15,000, maybe you borrowed, I don't know, depending of course on the interest rate for your student loan. Maybe now you actually would be paying like 10,000 and you'd be saving 5,000. Why? Because maybe the 5,000 on top was the interest, the one for the interest rate. And for now, if you borrowed like 10,000, you will pay 10,000 because it's at a 0% rate. So it's actually an advantageous thing. So that is why I think it's very important to take advantage of that and to actually pay now, and you're not actually forced to actually pay a huge amount. I mean, you can pay like what you are able to pay. You can make voluntary payments, knowing very well. So I would actually advise that you make voluntary payments now whilst the rate is still at 0%, because after this whole thing, I don't know when this whole thing will cease. Obviously the rates will go back to the normal, to where they were, if it was 7%, they will go back to that, or maybe more. So it's very important to actually take this opportunity and seize the moment and use this moment by actually making voluntary payments, so that you pay lesser than what you could have actually paid for your student loan. And so the last point is tip number 7, which says consider investing more. Consider in investment, guys. Consider in investing more, or for the first time. You're never too late to start in this investing thing, as much as you're never too late to start into the saving thing. To saving or opening a savings account and saying that, this one, I'm going to make it fixed. Or, if maybe you're like, okay, I don't trust myself, so you can actually make it fixed. And maybe, so that you may not tamper with that account or the amounts that will be in that account. Or you can actually invest. And it's so also important that even it's not only for those that have been in the field of investing, even for the first timers. And so if you have the means to do so and feel comfortable, now is a great chance, or the great time for you to actually invest, or to be able to enter the market. It's actually cheaper to enter the market, investing at this very moment or in this very particular time. It's very cheaper. And of course, do your research before you invest in whatever company that you're investing in. Make sure that you have all the the financial reports of the previous, not only for this year or maybe last year or like 3 years back. You gotta have financial information, financial records of that company to see how it's performing. Its financial statements, which obviously includes the statement of financial position, which obviously tells you or informs you this is the position in which this company is at. Its assets are good or they are not. Do their the liabilities of the company, do they exceed the assets and stuff like that, those little things. And of course, we must not obviously expect much for this year, because obviously many companies have not been performing as they have been, in previous years. So that is why I'm saying, do not only look for the financial statements or financial information background for the company only that is related to this year, but also for the previous years, so that you can actually, be updated to, how has this company been performing? Is it worth it to invest in it? And again, so it's very also important to be aware that investments always carry a risk, and that the market has been especially turbulent over the past few months, ever since this whole thing started. So obviously that is why I say that bear in mind that obviously the company has not been, certain companies have not been performing quite well, because they have been affected by this whole pandemic. And so that wraps it up, guys. Thank you for your moment. Thank you for giving me your time. And till next time, for me, love you. Yada.